I get asked sometimes to recommend crime fiction, any particular favorite books. And I have a few writers that I enjoy. Elmore Leonard probably at the top of the list. Patricia Highsmith, also very good. And Donald Westlake. Donald Westlake wrote a book called The Hook, which is really one of my favorites. It's a simple book, and actually he takes a page out of Patricia Highsmith's Strangers on the Train, and he probably makes no bones about it, but it's a great story. You have these two guys that run into each other in the mid-Manhattan library, and this is just before the internet kind of took off, and obviously there's no self-publishing opportunities, but for this scene, if you need to look something up and research something such as addresses, names and addresses, colleges, things like that, you would go to the reference room of the old library. It's probably right at the tail end of that, probably kind of late 1980s, early 1990s. But they run into each other one sunny day in the reference room, and it takes one guy a minute to figure out who the other guy is. But it turns out one guy is a famous author, like a big-time author, sort of a John Grisham, Stephen King type, mega bucks author, best James Patterson, and every book that comes out is a million seller, and sometimes there's movies, and he has huge lucrative contracts. But the problem is he has terrible writer's block. The other guy doesn't have any writer's block. He's got plenty of energy, plenty of novels, but his novels didn't sell well enough to the point where he no longer has a contract. And what happened at first was his novel slowed down, so he made a pen name, a fake name, and a fake identity. Some American expat living in Italy and writing these books. And then they picked up steam again for a while, but then that ran out and that dried up. So now the guy's actually in the library looking up the names of and addresses of colleges to try to apply for a job at a college anywhere in the country teaching English, which he really doesn't want to do. He wants to be a writer. But he's got a good book ready to go that he doesn't have a publisher for, because he's sort of he's sort of dirty laundry now in the business. And anyway, they make a deal in the end where he's going to give the struggling guy with the writer's block his book. That guy's going to tweak it a little bit, make it sound like his own, and then publish it under his own name. They're going to split the profits. But the little twist is, and that's where Patricia Highsmith comes, Strangers on a Train comes in. Little twist is the one requirement is he needs the struggling guy then to kill his wife, because he has a wife. He's going through a terrible divorce, and he's being hammered by a wife. Kind of apparently portrays her as a very unpleasant person, in addition to going after all his money. So the struggling guy says, no, that's ridiculous, but then starts to consider it. And that's Wayne. The other guy's name is Bryce. But it's a pretty good look at the inner workings of Manhattan writing and publishing back in the day. And, it's interesting. It's in that regard, it's almost a little bit documentary-like, but it moves along, it proceeds, and et cetera, and the guy decides what he's going to do. But you have these two kind of losers, and they come together in the Mid-Manhattan Library. They knew each other years ago when they were young authors. They were both at about the same level, both starting off, both trying to take the world by storm. But then 20, 25 years go by, and the one guy happens to hit it big, and he's not necessarily the better writer. In fact, he's probably the worst writer, but he happens to hit it big, and the other guy can't make a living at it anymore, and he's scrambling. But also I'd recommend that book because it's so well put together. Just every line is perfect. There's nothing unnecessary, and it's simple. The scenes are simple, and it's just well put together. I've reread the book a few times, and I marvel at how well it's done. And that's another thing. Westlake would write quickly. We had some previous videos talking about not worrying about getting everything perfect. He wrote very quickly, and I'm sure he just got an idea and he kind of dashed that thing off. I bet in a month or two. And it's a great book. The Hook by Donald Westlake. Okay.